The message arrived on a Tuesday morning in the year 2387. Earth's Communications Center in Geneva received it at exactly 09:15 local time. The signal came from beyond the outer planets, carried by technology that made human quantum transmitters look like smoke signals. Ambassador Tai-Ho was drinking his morning coffee when his assistant burst into his office. The young woman's face was pale, her hands shaking as she handed him the decoded message. "Sir, you need to read this immediately," she said. Tai-Ho set down his cup and took the tablet. His eyes moved across the words, and with each line, his expression grew darker. By the time he finished reading, his coffee had gone cold. The message was simple and terrifying. The Galactic Concord demanded that humanity stop expanding beyond the Sol system. They wanted humans to accept what they called protective oversight. In plain words, they wanted Earth to become their pet. Within an hour, emergency meetings were called across Earth. President Nari sat in the Situation Room deep beneath Sol, surrounded by screens showing the faces of military commanders, scientists, and colony governors from across human space. Commander Do-hyun appeared on the largest screen, his weathered face serious as he spoke from Luna Base. "How many ships do they have?" President Nari asked. Do-hyun's reply made everyone in the room go quiet. "Our best estimate is 50,000 warships. Maybe more. They have technology we've only dreamed about. Energy shields that can stop anything we throw at them. Weapons that can crack planets open like eggs." The silence stretched until Minister Hyun-woo, the head of colonial affairs, spoke up. "What about our colonies? We have 47 systems with human settlements, millions of people." "That's exactly why they're doing this," said Dr. Minnie from her laboratory on Mars. Her image flickered on another screen. "I've been studying the data from our first contact with alien species 5 years ago. They're afraid of us." "Afraid?" President Nari leaned forward. "They have 50,000 ships, and we have maybe 200. How can they be afraid?" Minnie pulled up a holographic display. "Look at our expansion rate. In just 80 years since we left Earth, we've colonized 47 systems. We've adapted to worlds that should be impossible for humans to live on. Ice worlds, desert planets, high-gravity systems that would crush most other species." She switched to another display showing population growth. "We reproduce faster than any other known intelligent species. We learn their technologies and improve them. Every time we meet a new challenge, we don't just survive it. We get stronger. Commander." Do-hyun nodded grimly. "The message mentioned 3 other species that showed similar patterns. All 3 were destroyed or contained. They don't want us to become the 4th. President Nari stood and walked to the window. Outside, Seoul stretched to the horizon, a city of 30 million people who had no idea their entire species was being threatened. In space above, the lights of orbital stations twinkled like stars. "What are our options?" she asked. Foreign Minister Sung-ho cleared his throat. "We could negotiate. Accept limited expansion, maybe keep 10 systems instead of 47, accept some oversight of our military." The room erupted in angry voices. Colony Governor Park shouted from the new Busan system, "We didn't spend 50 years building these worlds just to hand them over to aliens who've never set foot on them." Commander Do-hyun raised his hand for silence. "There's another option. We fight." The room went quiet again. Everyone knew what those words meant. War against a galaxy that had 50,000 ships while humanity had 200. Young naval officer Ji-woo, who had been silent in the corner, finally spoke. "Commander, what are our chances if we fight?" Do-hyun's smile was grim. "Honestly? Almost 0. But humans have survived worse odds before." Dr. Minnie nodded. "We have advantages they don't expect. Human creativity, our ability to adapt quickly, and something else." She paused, looking at the faces on the screens. "We're stubborn. When someone tells us we can't do something, we usually find a way to do it anyway." President Nari returned to her seat. Around the table, the most powerful humans in the galaxy waited for her decision. The weight of their species' future rested on her shoulders. "I need to hear from the colonies," she said. "Every settlement, every station, every outpost. This affects all of us." For the next 6 hours, reports came in from across human space. The mining colony on Kepler 442b voted unanimously to resist. The research station at Wolf 359 sent a message that simply said, "Earth's children don't bow to anyone." New Tokyo, New London, New Lagos. Every human settlement sent the same message. They would rather fight than surrender their freedom. As the sun set over Seoul, President Nari made her decision. She walked to the communications center and activated the quantum transmitter that would send her message across the galaxy. "This is President Nari of the United Earth Government, speaking for all human settlements and colonies." Her voice was calm, but her words carried the strength of 8 billion people on Earth and millions more scattered across the stars. "We have received your ultimatum. We have considered your terms. Our answer is simple. We respectfully decline your generous offer. Earth's children will chart their own destiny among the stars." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "We did not leave our homeworld to become prisoners in our own solar system. We did not cross the impossible distances between stars just to accept limits placed on us by those who fear what we might become." The message continued. "We offer friendship to all species who wish it. We offer trade, knowledge, and cooperation. But we will not accept cages, no matter how pretty they are made to look." When the transmission ended, the room was completely silent. Everyone knew that President Nari had just declared war on the entire galaxy. Ambassador Tai-Ho was the first to speak. "The colonies will support this decision, but we need to prepare for the consequences." Commander Do-hyun nodded. "They'll start with economic sanctions, cut off trade, isolate us completely, then they'll move to military action." "How long do we have?" President Nari asked. 6 months, maybe less, Do-hyun replied. "They'll want to make an example of us before any other species gets ideas about independence." As the meeting ended and the screens went dark one by one, President Nari remained in her chair. Through the window, she could see the lights of the city, people going about their lives, unaware that their president had just bet their species' survival on human stubbornness and ingenuity. But as she sat there, she remembered the words of her grandmother, who had lived through Earth's last great war. "Sometimes the only choice is between dying on your feet or living on your knees. And humans, we've never been good at kneeling." The die was cast. Humanity had chosen its path. Now, they had to walk it no matter where it led. 6 months after Earth's refusal, the galaxy's response was swift and brutal. Every alien species that had once traded with human colonies suddenly went silent. Supply ships that carried food, medicine, and raw materials to distant human outposts simply stopped coming. Trade routes that had taken decades to establish vanished overnight. Commander Do-hyun stood in the war room of Luna Base, staring at a holographic map that showed human space in red and everything else in cold blue. The red dots looked very small and very alone in the vast ocean of blue. "Report," he said to Lieutenant Ji-woo, who had become his most trusted intelligence. Officer Ji-woo's face was grim. "Complete economic isolation, sir. The Threx Consortium has canceled all mining contracts. The Zephyrian Trade Alliance has recalled their merchants. Even the neutral species are refusing to deal with us." She moved to the next screen, showing fleet positions. "It's worse than that. We're detecting massive alien ship movements. They're positioning blockade fleets at every major hyperspace route leading to human systems." Do-hyun studied the display. Red markers showed human settlements, while blue triangles marked alien fleets. The blue triangles were everywhere, surrounding human space like sharks circling wounded prey. "How many ships?" he asked. "At least 15,000, and more arriving every day. They're not trying to hide their movements. They want us to see them." On Earth, President Nari was dealing with the political fallout. Emergency sessions of the Global Assembly ran day and night as representatives from different nations argued about humanity's response. Some called for immediate negotiations. Others demanded that Earth's military be prepared for total war. "The Yabuo colonies are starting to feel the pressure," reported Colonial Minister Hyun-woo during one heated session. "New Busan is down to 3 months of medical supplies. The terraforming project on Kepler 438b has stopped because they can't get the atmospheric processors they need." President Nari listened to the complaints and fears, but her expression remained calm. "What about our own production capabilities?" Minister Hyun-woo consulted his tablet. We're moving fast to replace alien technology with human alternatives. Dr. Mine's teams on Mars are working around the clock, but some things we simply don't know how to make yet. Dr. Mine was indeed working around the clock. In her laboratory deep beneath Mars's Olympus Mons, she led a team of humanity's best scientists in the most important project in human history. They were trying to understand alien technology well enough to not just copy it, but improve it. Mr. Pew, problem, she explained to her exhausted team, is that we're trying to understand technologies developed by species with completely different ways of thinking. The Threx built their computers using crystalline matrices that respond to electromagnetic fields. The Zephyrians use what appears to be controlled gravity manipulation. Her assistant, a young engineer named Kyung-ho, raised his hand. But we've made some progress with the captured samples from the first contact incident, right? Mine nodded. Yes, and that's given us some interesting discoveries. Human neural patterns seem to interface with alien technology in ways the original designers never intended. It's almost like our brains are naturally more adaptable. She brought up a holographic display showing brain scans. Watch this. When a human tries to operate Threx technology, our brains don't just learn the intended functions, we find new ways to use the same systems, ways the Threx never thought of. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Jiwoo was making discoveries of her own during patrol missions along the outer edges of human space. Her small scout ship, the Soul's Pride, had been mapping alien fleet movements for weeks. But something she discovered made her rush back to Luna Base immediately. "Commander," she said, bursting into Do-hyun's office without ceremony. "We have a problem. A big one." Do-hyun looked up from the tactical reports he'd been studying. "What is it?" "The aliens know too much about us. Our ship movements, our base locations, even our communication frequencies. Sir, I think someone is feeding them information." The room went cold. Do-hyun stood slowly. "Explain." Jiwoo activated her portable projector, showing flight paths and alien responses. "Look at this pattern. Every time one of our ships changes course, alien patrols adjust their positions within hours. When Colony Base 7 changed their communication encryption, alien jamming systems adapted the same day. Do-hyun studied the data. Could be long-range sensors, advanced scanning technology. That's what I thought at first. But look at this. She showed another display. Yesterday, Captain Won-6's supply run to the Vega colony was delayed by 6 hours due to engine trouble. The aliens moved their blockade ships 6 hours later, still perfectly positioned to intercept his new arrival time. "Engine trouble that only we knew about," Do-hyun said quietly. "Exactly. Either they have technology that can read our minds from light years away, or someone with access to our command systems is working for them." The implications were staggering. Do-hyun immediately ordered a complete security review of all human systems. But even as his people worked to find the leak, other problems were mounting. Ambassador Tai-ho had been working his own angle, trying to establish back-channel communications with moderate alien factions. His breakthrough came through an unlikely source, a Zephyrian merchant named HFY, who had secretly maintained contact despite his government's orders. "Your species has caused quite a stir," HFY told Tai-ho during a clandestine meeting in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The crystalline alien's translated words carried what sounded like amusement. "We're not trying to threaten anyone," Tai-ho replied. "We just want to live freely." "That's exactly what has them scared," HFY said. "Do you know the real history of the galaxy? The truth they don't teach in their schools?" Tai-ho leaned forward. "Tell me, 3 times before species like yours appeared. Species that expanded rapidly, adapted quickly, and refused to accept limitations. The first were called the Builders. They created amazing cities on 1,000 worlds. The second were the Wanderers, who explored further than any species before or since. The third were the Ravagers. What happened to them?" HFY's crystalline form seemed to dim. "The Builders were contained, forced into a small region of space where they eventually died out from lack of resources. The Wanderers were scattered, their colonies destroyed one by one until they gave up and returned to their homeworld. The Ravagers fought back, and the entire Ravager species was exterminated. Every man, woman, and child. Their worlds were burned from orbit. The galaxy told itself it was necessary to prevent another galactic war. But I wonder, Were the Ravagers really the monsters history claims they were? Or were they just the first species to say no to the powers that control our galaxy? This revelation changed everything. Taiho realized that humanity wasn't facing a united galaxy trying to prevent chaos. They were facing an established order trying to prevent change. Back on Earth, President Nari received Taiho's report during a late-night briefing. The news about the 3 previous species made her think about human history. How many times had powerful empires told smaller peoples that resistance was futile? How many times had those empires been wrong? So we're not the first, she said to the assembled officials. That changes things. How? Asked Defense Minister Chang Ho. It means this isn't about preventing galactic destruction. This is about preventing galactic freedom. She stood and walked to the window, looking up at the stars. The question is, are we going to end up like the Builders and Wanderers or like the Ravagers? Commander Do Hyun's voice came through the speakers from Luna Base. There's another option, Madam President. We could be the first to win. As autumn turned to winter, on Earth, the pressure continued to build. Alien probe ships began appearing in the outer solar system, testing human response times and defensive capabilities. Several human colonies reported supply shortages reaching critical levels, but something else was happening too. The colonies weren't breaking under the pressure. Instead, they were adapting. Miners on New Busan turned their industrial equipment into weapons manufacturing. Scientists on research stations began jury-rigging solutions to replace alien technology. Most importantly, the colonies were sharing everything. Every new discovery, every innovative solution, every tactical insight was immediately transmitted to every other human settlement. The galaxy's attempt to isolate humanity was actually forcing them to cooperate more closely than ever before. Dr. Min A made the biggest breakthrough in late December. Working with brain scan data from volunteers across human space, she discovered something remarkable about human neural adaptability. We're not just good at using alien technology, she told President Nari during a secure video call. We're better at it than the species who built it. Human brains seem to be naturally equipped for rapid technological integration. What does that mean for our defense? It means, Madam President, that we might have capabilities the aliens have never seen before. And if we're lucky, capabilities they can't defend against. As the year 2387 ended, humanity stood alone against a galaxy of 50,000 warships. But they stood together, more united than they had ever been. And deep in laboratories on Mars and in strategy rooms on Luna, they were preparing for a war that would determine whether humans would join. The attack came without warning on a cold January morning in 2388. The agricultural world of New Busan, home to 3 million human colonists, detected massive energy signatures at the edge of their system. Within minutes, a fleet of 200 alien warships dropped out of hyperspace. Colony Governor Park watched from the Planetary Defense Center as the alien ships moved into attack formation. His hands shook as he activated the emergency broadcast system. This is Governor Park to all citizens of New Busan. We are under attack. This is not a drill. All civilians are to report to emergency shelters immediately. The alien ships didn't waste time with demands or ultimatums. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, targeting the planetary defense platforms first. The human-built weapons fired back, but their projectiles simply bounced off alien energy shields like pebbles thrown at a mountain. Governor Park grabbed his communication officer. Get me Commander Do Hyun on Luna Base. Tell him we're under attack and we need... The transmission cut off as the defense center took a direct hit. New Busan's resistance lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. On Luna Base, Commander Do Hyun stared at the tactical display as red lights showed human colonies under attack across known space. New Busan was already gone. The mining station at Kepler 442b had stopped responding. The research outpost at Wolf 359 was sending desperate calls for help that would never arrive. How many colonies are under attack? He asked Lieutenant Jiwoo. 15 so far, sir. All of them on the outer edges of human space. The aliens are working their way inward, system by system. Do Hyun studied the pattern. The aliens were being systematic, destroying the most distant colonies first. They wanted to force humanity back toward Earth, squeezing them into a smaller and smaller space until surrender became the only option. What about our defense fleets? He asked. Captain Taemin's squadron tried to help New Busan, but they were outnumbered 20-1. they managed to destroy 3 alien ships before being forced to retreat. Captain Sujin's group is racing toward Kepler 442b, but they won't arrive in time. Commander Do-hyun clenched his fists. Humanity had 200 ships scattered across 47 systems, while the aliens had 50,000 concentrated wherever they wanted them. It was like trying to defend a house with a handful of guards, while attackers could strike any room at any time with overwhelming force. But something strange was happening in the reports coming back from the attacked colonies. The aliens had expected quick surrenders or panicked evacuations. Instead, they were finding resistance that didn't make sense according to their military doctrine. On the mining world of Titan III, workers had turned their asteroid-cracking equipment into makeshift weapons. When alien troops landed, they found themselves fighting humans who used mining explosives as artillery and industrial robots as tanks. The research station at Proxima Centauri b had jury-rigged their atmospheric processors into defensive systems that filled the entire base with toxic gases, harmless to humans but deadly to the insectoid Threx soldiers who tried to capture it. Most confusing to the alien commanders was how quickly human tactics spread. When colonists on one world discovered that Zephyrian energy shields could be overloaded by rapidly changing frequencies, every other human settlement knew about it within hours. Dr. Minnie was monitoring these reports from her laboratory on Mars when she made a disturbing discovery. The aliens weren't just winning battles, they were learning from every engagement. "Look at this pattern," she showed her assistant, Kyung-ho. The holographic display showed alien attack formations from different battles. In the first attacks, they used standard formation tactics. By the 10th attack, they had adapted to counter every human defensive innovation. "They're learning as fast as we are," Kyung-ho said. "Faster. They have artificial intelligence systems that analyze combat data in real time. Every time our colonists develop a new defensive technique, the aliens incorporate countermeasures within hours." This was when Minnie realized something that changed her approach completely. Human adaptability wasn't just about technology or tactics. It was about something the aliens couldn't replicate with computer systems. "Kyung-ho, pull up the psychological profiles of our most successful colony defenders." The data that appeared made Minnie smile for the first time in weeks. The humans who were most effective against alien attacks weren't the ones with the best equipment or the most military training. They were the ones who refused to accept that they should lose. Farmer Kim on New Seoul had held off an entire Threx battalion for 6 hours, using nothing but agricultural equipment and pure stubbornness. Teacher Yeon-ju on the mining station at Vega 7 had convinced 50 civilians to keep fighting even when their defenses were failing, turning a certain defeat into a tactical draw. It's not about intelligence or technology, Minnie realized. It's about attitude. The aliens can copy our tactics and counter our weapons, but they can't replicate the human refusal to give up. This insight led to her next breakthrough. Working. With captured alien technology, she discovered that human neural patterns could interface with alien systems in ways their original creators never intended. But more than that, humans could make alien technology perform beyond its designed capabilities. Lieutenant Ji-woo was seeing this principle in action during her increasingly dangerous missions along the front lines. Her small ship, the Souls, Pride, had been modified with captured alien components that Minnie's team had reverse-engineered. "It shouldn't work," she told her engineer Won-shik as they prepared for another reconnaissance mission. "We're using Threx crystal matrices to power Zephyrian gravity manipulators, all controlled by human computer systems. By every rule of physics and engineering, this ship should explode the moment we turn it on." "But it doesn't," Won-shik grinned. "It works better than anything the aliens ever built. Ji-woo's hybrid ship could outrun pure alien vessels, had shields, stronger than standard alien defenses, and carried weapons that combined the best features of multiple alien technologies. But the aliens were building ships specifically designed to counter human innovations. The real test came when Ji-woo's squadron encountered an alien patrol fleet near the Jupiter system. The enemy ships immediately began jamming human communications and using new tactics designed to counter hybrid human-alien technology. "They're adapting too fast," Ji-woo reported to Commander Do-hyun after barely escaping the encounter. "Every advantage we develop, they counter within days." Do-hyun studied the combat reports. "Then we need to stop giving them time to adapt. We need to change our strategy." This was when he made the decision that would define the rest of the war. Instead of trying to defend fixed positions, humanity would go completely mobile. Colonies would be evacuated to hidden bases. Ships would operate independently, never following predictable patterns. "We're going to disappear," Do-hyun announced to his staff. "Let them conquer empty planets and attack abandoned stations. We'll be shadows, in the dark, striking when they don't expect it and vanishing before they can respond." President Nari approved the strategy during an emergency session of the War Council. "Our ancestors survived ice ages by being adaptable, not by building walls that could be knocked down. We'll survive this the same way." The transformation of human space began immediately. Civilians were evacuated from major colonies to hidden bases in asteroid fields and dead systems. Industrial facilities were dismantled and rebuilt in mobile configurations that could be moved on short notice. The aliens found themselves conquering empty worlds and capturing abandoned stations. When they searched for the missing humans, they found only empty space and occasional surprise attacks that seemed to come from nowhere. But the aliens adapted to this strategy too. They began using long-range sensors to detect human heat signatures and life support systems. They deployed probe networks that could track ships across multiple star systems. As spring arrived on Earth, the siege was tightening. Alien probe ships had been detected as close as Saturn's orbit. Long-range sensors showed massive fleet movements toward the Sol system. Commander Do-hyun called an emergency meeting of all surviving human military commanders. The faces on the screens looked tired and worried, but none of them talked about surrender. "They're preparing for the final assault," Do-hyun told them. "Intelligence estimates put their assembled fleet at over 30,000 ships. They're going to hit Earth with everything they have." Captain Tae-min, whose squadron had been fighting running battles for months, spoke first. "What are our chances, sir?" Do-hyun's smile was grim but determined. "Against 30,000 ships? Mathematically, 0. But humans have never been good at mathematics when it comes to impossible odds." Dr. Mene joined the conference from her laboratory. "I have something that might help. We've been working on modifications to our ships and defense systems. Human-alien hybrid technology that goes beyond anything either species has built before." She activated a holographic display showing new ship designs. These vessels use human creativity combined with alien engineering. They're faster, stronger, and more adaptable than anything in space. But we only have enough modified ships to outfit about 50 vessels. 50 ships against 30,000, Captain Sujin said quietly. The final alien armada arrived at Neptune's orbit on a Tuesday that would be remembered forever in human history. 30,000 ships stretched across space in a formation so vast that it took Earth's sensors 3 hours just to count them. All-Out Commander Do-hyun stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching the tactical display with grim satisfaction. For months, humanity had been preparing for this moment. Every surviving ship, every hidden base, every modified weapon system was ready. "Sir," Lieutenant Ji-woo reported from her position at the communications console, "we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship." "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of Velkari Admiral Zethka. The alien's silver skin and multiple eyes gave it an intimidating appearance, but Do-hyun had learned not to judge alien emotions by human standards. "Commander of the human forces," the Admiral's translated voice carried what sounded like sadness. "You have fought well, but this ends now. Surrender your species, and we will grant you the same protection we provide to other civilized races." Do-hyun stepped forward. "Protection? Is that what you call the extinction of 3 previous species?" The alien's expression shifted slightly. "Those species chose destruction over civilization. We offer humanity a better path. The path of cages and controlled populations? The path of never reaching for the stars because someone else decides we've gone far enough?" Do-hyun shook his head. "We decline your generous offer, Admiral. Then you choose extinction. I am sorry." The transmission ended, and immediately the alien fleet began moving toward Earth. But as they advanced, they found something unexpected waiting for them. Humanity's fleet wasn't positioned in neat defensive formations around Earth or Luna. Instead, human ships appeared from everywhere at once. From behind asteroids, from the shadows of moons, from deep space where they shouldn't have been able to hide. The Battle of Seoul began with the aliens confident of swift victory. They had overwhelming numbers, superior technology, and centuries of military experience. But within the first hour, they realized this wasn't going to be the easy conquest they had expected. Human ships fought with tactics no military academy had ever taught. When a human vessel was damaged beyond repair, instead of retreating, it would ram the nearest alien ship. When surrounded, human crews would detonate their own reactors, taking enemy vessels with them. Captain Taemin's destroyer squadron engaged a group of Threx battleships near Mars. Outnumbered 5-1, normal tactics would have called for immediate retreat. Instead, Taemin ordered his ships to split up and attack from different angles simultaneously. Target their communication arrays first, he commanded. If they can't coordinate, they can't adapt. His modified ship, enhanced with Dr. Minet's hybrid technology, moved through space in patterns that confused the alien targeting systems. The human vessels seemed to anticipate enemy movements before they happened, but the most disturbing thing for the alien commanders was how human defeats turned into intelligence victories. When Captain Sujin's cruiser was destroyed defending a position near Jupiter, her ship's final transmission wasn't a distress call. It was detailed sensor data about alien shield frequencies and weapon capabilities. Within minutes, every other human ship had updated their systems based on Sujin's sacrifice. Her death had made the entire human fleet more effective. Admiral Zeth Ka watched the battle reports with growing confusion. These humans fight like no species we have encountered. They treat their own deaths as tactical opportunities. His tactical officer, a crystalline Zephyrian, agreed. Admiral, they share information instantaneously across their entire fleet. When one ship learns something, they all know it within minutes. More concerning, added the Threx intelligence. Specialist. They seem to improve their performance with each engagement. Our computer models predicted they would break under sustained pressure. Instead, they are becoming more effective. This was when Lieutenant Jiwoo made the discovery that changed everything. Her ship, the Soul's Pride, had been assigned to infiltrate the alien fleet's rear formations and gather intelligence. Using her hybrid stealth systems, she managed to get close enough to intercept alien communications. What she heard made her race back to Luna Base immediately. "Commander!" She burst into Do-hyun's command center. "You need to hear this immediately. The aliens aren't united by choice." Do-hyun looked up from the tactical display where he was coordinating humanity's defense. "Explain!" Jiwoo activated her recording device. Alien voices filled the room, translated by human computers. "The Velkari forced us into this war," one voice said. "My people never wanted to attack the humans. The Threx Consortium fears the Empire more than we fear these humans," said another. "If we refuse to fight, they will do to us what they did to the Builders." A third voice, clearly Zephyrian, added, "How many more species must we help destroy? To keep our own world safe?" The room went silent. Do-hyun stared at Jiwoo. "Are you saying the alien coalition is being forced to fight us?" "That's exactly what I'm saying, sir. Most of these species are here because the Velkari Empire threatened them with extinction if they refused." This revelation reached President Nari in her bunker beneath Seoul, just as reports arrived of alien ships beginning to behave strangely. Some vessels were firing their weapons with less accuracy than before. Others were responding slowly to tactical orders. "What's happening out there?" she asked Commander Do-hyun over the secure communication link. "I think some of our enemies are starting to remember what they're really fighting for," Do-hyun replied. The turning point came when a squadron of Threx ships found themselves facing off against Jiwoo's modified cruiser near the asteroid belt. Instead of immediately attacking, the lead Threx vessel opened a communication channel. "Human ship, this is Captain Klex Nor of the Threx Defense Force. We do not wish to fight you." Jiwoo was startled but responded quickly. "Then why are you here?" "Because the Velkari will destroy our homeworld if we refuse. But watching you fight, watching you refuse to surrender even when facing impossible odds, it reminds us of what we used to be before we became slaves to fear." The Threx captain paused. "You fight for freedom. We have forgotten what that word means." What happened next surprised everyone, including the humans. The Threx squadron turned their weapons on nearby Velkari ships instead of attacking Jiwoo's cruiser. The mutiny spread like wildfire through the alien fleet. Species that had been forced into the coalition by Velkari threats began remembering their own desires for independence. The sight of humans refusing to surrender despite impossible odds inspired them to make their own stand against their oppressors. Admiral Zethka watched in horror as his united fleet began tearing itself apart. Threx ships attacked Velkari vessels. Zephyrian squadrons refused orders and withdrew from combat. Dozens of smaller species simply stopped fighting and began broadcasting demands for their independence. "This is impossible," the admiral told his staff. "We have maintained galactic order for over 5 years after the Battle of Sol, President Nari stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, watching ships from hundreds of different worlds dock at the massive space habitat. The station hung in space between Earth and Mars, a symbol of the new galactic order that had emerged from the ashes of the Velkari Empire. The woman who had once faced the choice between surrender and extinction now served as the first Secretary General of the Free Galactic Council. But the path to this moment had not been easy. In the immediate aftermath of the war, the galaxy had been chaos. The Velkari Empire's collapse left dozens of species without the centralized authority they had known for 2,000 years. Some worlds erupted in civil war. Others faced economic collapse as trade networks built around Velkari control suddenly vanished. Commander Do-hyun, now promoted to Admiral of the newly formed Galactic Defense Force, had spent the first 2 years after the war simply keeping the peace. His fleets, composed of ships from 40 different species, worked to stop conflicts and protect worlds unable to defend themselves. "The hardest part," he had told Nari during one of their weekly strategy meetings, "isn't fighting wars. It's teaching people who have been slaves for centuries how to be free." Dr. Minnie had faced her own challenges. As head of the Galactic Technology Exchange, she worked to spread the scientific knowledge that the Velkari had suppressed for so long. Her laboratories, now located on Unity Station, had become centers of innovation where species shared their discoveries freely. "We're seeing advances that would have taken centuries under the old system," she reported during one council session. "When the Threx crystal technology combines with Zephyrian gravity manipulation and human computer systems, we get capabilities none of us could achieve alone." Lieutenant Ji Woo, now Admiral Ji Woo of the Exploration Fleet, had perhaps the most exciting job in the new galaxy. Her ships, crewed by volunteers from dozens of species, were pushing the boundaries of known space further than any expedition in galactic history. "We've discovered 17 new species in the past year alone," she told the Council during her latest report. "All of them were hiding in remote systems, afraid to reveal themselves during the Velkari era. Now they're eager to join the galactic community." But the most challenging role belonged to Ambassador Tai Ho, who now served as President Nari's chief advisor on interspecies relations. The delicate work of building trust between species that had been forced to fight each other required all of his diplomatic skills. "The Velkari are struggling the most with the transition," he reported, during a private briefing with Nari. "For 2,000 years, they defined themselves as the galaxy's rulers. Now they have to learn to be just one species among many." Nari nodded thoughtfully. The Velkari homeworld had been placed under temporary supervision to prevent civil war, but she knew that long-term peace required bringing them into the new system as equals, not keeping them as prisoners. The transformation wasn't just political. The entire character of galactic civilization was changing. Under Velkari rule, technological and social progress had been deliberately slowed to maintain stability. Now, freed from those constraints, species were rediscovering capabilities they had forgotten they possessed. The Threx, once known only for their military efficiency, revealed themselves to be master artists and musicians. Their crystalline cities, which had seemed coldly functional under the Empire, now sparkled with color and creativity. The Zephyrians, who had been restricted to trade and commerce, returned to their ancient love of exploration and philosophy. Their ships, once limited to predetermined trade routes, now roamed the galaxy, seeking knowledge and wisdom. Even humans were changing. The desperate unity that had carried them through the war was evolving into something more positive. Human colonies were becoming centers of learning and cooperation, places where different species came together to solve problems and share discoveries. Nari often thought about the 3 previous species that had faced the same choice as humanity. Archaeological expeditions to former builder worlds had discovered that they had been master engineers whose cities still functioned perfectly after centuries of abandonment. The Wanderers had left star maps that showed they had explored regions of space that current galactic civilization still considered unreachable. Most remarkably, research into the extinct Ravagers had revealed that they hadn't been the monsters of Velkari propaganda. They had been pioneers and innovators who had simply refused to accept limits on their growth and exploration. Their crimes had been the same as humanity's, expanding too fast and adapting too quickly for the Empire's comfort. "We're living in the galaxy they dreamed of," Nari told the Council during a memorial service for the lost species. "A place where advancement isn't feared, where growth isn't limited, and where the only boundaries are the ones we choose for ourselves." The new Galactic Constitution, drafted by representatives from over 300 species, enshrined principles that would have been revolutionary under the old system: the right of every species to expand and explore, the right to technological development without artificial limits, and the right to self-determination without external interference. But perhaps the most important change was cultural. The old galaxy had been built on fear of change, fear of conflict, fear of species that might upset the established order. The new galaxy was built on hope for discovery, hope for advancement, and hope for a future where all species could reach their full potential. Dr. Minet's research had confirmed what many suspected: humanity's rapid development wasn't unique. When freed from artificial constraints, most species showed similar rates of advancement. The galaxy's previous stagnation had been an artificial condition imposed by the Empire, not a natural state. "We're seeing developments in just 5 years that equal centuries of progress under the old system," she reported to the Council. "Energy production is up 400% galaxy-wide. Interstellar travel times have been cut in half. We've made more scientific discoveries in the past year than in the previous century." Admiral Do-hyun's Galactic Defense Force faced different challenges than traditional military organizations. Instead of maintaining order through force, they focused on protecting the weak and preventing any single power from dominating others. "We're not an army," he explained to new recruits from various species. "We're guardians. Our job isn't to rule or control, but to ensure that freedom remains free." The Defense Force had been tested when a group of former Velkari military commanders attempted to retake their homeworld by force. But instead of facing just human ships, they found themselves opposed by a united fleet of Threx, Zephyrian, and dozens of other species who had learned that their freedom was worth defending. Admiral Jiwoo's exploration missions had yielded the most surprising discoveries. Beyond the known galaxy's edge, her expeditions had found evidence of ancient civilizations that had achieved remarkable things before mysteriously vanishing. "We think there have been multiple cycles of galactic civilization," she reported to a packed assembly hall on Unity Station. "Each one reaching higher levels of achievement than the last, but each eventually failing for unknown reasons." Her data suggested that the current galactic civilization might be the 4th or 5th attempt at organized interstellar society. The implications were staggering. Somewhere in the deep past, species had achieved capabilities that made current technology look primitive. "The question," Jiwoo continued, "is whether we can break the cycle, whether we can build something that lasts." Ambassador Taiho believed the answer lay in the fundamental difference between the new civilization and its predecessors. "Every previous galactic order was built around control," he argued during council debates. "Someone always had to be in charge, someone always had to set the rules for everyone else. We're trying something that's never been attempted before, a civilization based on cooperation instead of domination." The challenges were real. Some species struggled with the responsibility of self-governance after centuries of being told what to do. Others went too far in the opposite direction, becoming isolationist or aggressive toward their neighbors. But slowly, gradually, the new system was working. Trade flourished as species exchanged goods and ideas freely. Scientific research accelerated, as knowledge was shared instead of hoarded. Art and culture bloomed as different civilizations learned from each other. Nari often received visitors on Unity Station, leaders from across the galaxy who came to see how the new system was working. Many asked the same question: how had humanity known they could succeed against such impossible odds? Her answer was always the same: we didn't know we could succeed. We only knew we couldn't accept failure. As she stood on the observation deck, watching the ships come and go, Nari thought about the future. The Free Galactic Council was planning expeditions beyond the current galaxy's boundaries. Dr. Min-Ai's technology exchange was developing faster-than-light communications that could connect civilizations across vast distances. Admiral Jiwoo's exploration fleets were preparing to search for other galactic civilizations that might exist in distant star clusters. But the most important work was happening right here, in the daily interactions between species that had once been enemies. Children from